What's up, guys? Welcome back. Thanks for watching. Um, Sorry about not having a video yesterday. It was my wife's birthday, so I had some other things to do. Made a meal and all that kind of good stuff. Hung out with the family. Um, Today was a rough day for the market, so we'll jump right into it here. Um, this is pretty much all you need to see. Everything was down. VOO, VB, VWO, VNQ, these are all um, index funds, basically, uh, and they're part of my sort of longer term investing strategy. But I use they're usually in line with the market. That's kind of that's the sort of goal of various index funds, and these cover real estate and emerging markets and large caps, small caps. It's a diversified portfolio. But you see the Nasdaq down 4%, Dow Jones 3%, S&P 3%. Um, Kind of a plunge today, and people are sort of wondering, is this the end of this sort of 10-year long bull market that we've had? Maybe. We're definitely due for a pullback, so I would not be surprised. But 1 or 2 days doesn't really tell the whole story, so we'll just have to see how it goes. Pretty limited today for me with work. I was down around for the day a little bit less than 0.5%. Only took one big position in Microsoft, and we can go into that here. If we look at Microsoft, and we can talk about what we were looking at yesterday with Microsoft. So what we were looking at was this pattern here, right? So Microsoft on the 180-day chart has definitely been showing signs of a lot of uptrend positive momentum. Hit a high of 116, pulled back, but still pulled back to a higher low than previous. Here we were sitting at 108. Here we were sitting at 110. Here we were sitting at 105. So, moving up a few dollars every time. And ignoring this, which was today, we were definitely oversold on the RSI, the MACD. Got a buy signal here, and yesterday, crossed back over the EMA line here, kind of bounced off the SMA, dipped a little under, but basically bounced off the SMA, hit the EMA. So I was, looking at an entry around $112, and hoping to ride that 112 for about 4%. If it made a new high on a similar Fibonacci, it would have been like closer to 6% over, let's say 3 days, something like that. With a stop then probably around 1%, right about there, would sell off kind of below this level. So when the market first opened, we'll go to the 1 day, 1 minute here. When the market first opened, it had a little bit of a sell-off immediately and then started to look like it was going to recover. Now, this was a mistake. Here we're looking at the bottom VWAP, middle VWAP. You can see the upper VWAP is let me pull it back down here, right there. What I should have waited for would be for this movement to cross that middle VWAP and start approaching the upper VWAP. Instead, I sort of anticipated that move, got in here, and then as you can see, it just sold off all day. Like most things today, just sold off all day. So that was a mistake. Here's the upper VWAP right here. So, if this move had then sort of crossed the middle VWAP, sorry, this is the middle VWAP, this light pink line, crossed it, almost did it, like pushed right to it. Had it crossed and bounced off the upper and then maybe shown a pullback, that would have been the right entry, that pullback. Instead, it rode the bottom VWAPs or bounced off of the EMA all day. You can see that pattern, right, all day long. Bottom VWAP, EMA, bottom VWAP, EMA. Again and again, right here, EMA, it crossed a little bit, hit the EMA, back to the bottom VWAP, back to the EMA, could just never recover. It never started to look in the positive direction all day long. And if you look at the 5-day, 5-minute, this is what you see. Huge sell-off, right? It went down probably something like 4%. 6%. So lost like 0.5% on that one. I had a pretty small position and had a pretty tight stop. So lost that and then shifted focus to DGAS, which on the day was trending up. As you can see, natural gas here was trending down, and DGAS sort of acts as an inverse of what natural gas and UGAS are doing. So here's UGAS trended down today. It trended down yesterday and gapped during after hours. Sort of did that the last few days, right? Trends down, gaps a little bit, trends down, gaps, horizontal day, gaps up, trends down, gaps up, trends down. We'll see what happens tonight on UGAS. DGAS is the inverse of UGAS, so you'll see an opposite pattern up through the day, trends down, up to the day, gaps down, horizontal. You can see the pattern there. And so today it was making, I didn't get in on the first two pushes right here. Those first two pushes were good for, from the low, good for about 10%, 8%. So that would have been nice. I just sort of played these movements here the rest of the day. Probably got in and out 2 or 3 times in the afternoon, which I don't usually do, but I was trying to dig myself out on something that was showing like a fairly consistent, repeatable pattern. So this was hitting the EMA, bouncing off the EMA, finding resistance at the upper VWAP, bouncing off the EMA, dipped under, started to lose its strength, and then petered out. So I think this was probably the first move that I got it on. I can't remember if it was here or here. I think it was here. But I know it was bad for a lot of people. There were stocks that people were calling out that just had pretty awful days. I think AMD sold off bad. And you can see our watch list over here, right? Everything's red. JNUG was the only thing that had some positive gain here today. Of the entire watch list, JNUG was the only stock that ended up on my reversal watch list. So everything that we were watching on Microsoft, AMD, these are things that on the 180-day chart were looking really good for reversal, and then you've got this outlier day right here that's just this huge sell-off. So we'll have to see what tomorrow was, how important it is not to try to revenge trade. And what I mean by that is if you lose money, you're down, say you see a gap strategy and you buy in as it starts to move up and then it takes a hard sell like many of those types of stocks do. So you're down 5%, 10% more. And obviously that's, the key, when you're told don't get emotional, but it's hard, right? You lost a lot of money. So, the worst thing that you can do when you lose a bet is to throw good money after bad money, meaning thinking, oh, it's going to turn, I can get it back. Like take Microsoft today was for me, for example, right? So, I lose here, I stop out somewhere in this area, and then I see, this move. I mean, I watched it the rest of the day. I see this movement right here. And the wrong thing to do would be like, oh, see, here we go. Here's my chance. And you buy in, you see it sort of break above, it's getting ready to cross the EMA. You get in, I'm going to make my money back. I'll get it all back here. And then boom, it sells off again. And I think that, remember to step back. What is the overall pattern? The overall pattern here was that it was riding the lower VWAP. It was finding resistance at the EMA line at the middle of VWAP. This thing was going nowhere but down today. And sometimes if you get emotional and you start to revenge trade, as I like to say, try to make it back on a day where you lost, you'll end up losing more. 95% of the time you'll end up losing more. So don't do that. tomorrow is going to be interesting. We may be entering sort of a choppy sort of bear market, but the good news is that for short-term swing trades and day trades, bear markets they may make the opportunities more difficult to come across. They should raise your level of caution about what you're taking. You can't be as aggressive because you have to understand the context of the overall market, which today was clearly, right, clearly down. So that's what the big it does, professional industry traders, they were selling today. And that brings everything down. There's panic in the air, everything falls. And you don't want to try to catch a falling knife. You want to stick with your strategy, be a little extra cautious. And if you end up losing, don't try to get it back. Like even what I did today, sort of like trying to dig out with DGAS over the course of a few trades. I mean, it was showing a pretty consistent pattern, so I felt comfortable doing that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that was the smartest thing to do. I could have taken my 0.5% loss, said thank you very much, and waited till tomorrow. So just have rules, be careful, be cautious as we may be entering into a correction in the overall market, and understand that that's going to influence the way that things behave. And they may not behave the way that they had a week ago when it seemed like every day there was free money out there. So that's all I had today. Let me know if you have any questions. You can leave them in the comments. If you found this video helpful, I would appreciate if you would give us a like. And if you want to follow along and learn along with me, then consider subscribing. Take it easy.